Life is a casino. We don't think, we just hit them off with C-notes. And you can bet it all. I'ma be the last one standing tall. Joey Merlino.
What's up, G?
Life is a casino. We don't think, we just hit them off with
Tell us about
C-notes. And you can bet it all. I'ma be the last one standing tall. Joey Merlino.
With Joey Merlino.
This is Lil Snuff from the Skinny Joey Merlino podcast. We would like to thank you for watching. Head on over to Patreon for the full episode. Welcome back to episode 39, The Skinny, with Joey Merlino, Lil Snuff, and a good friend of ours that has a very interesting story, Anthony, but he's known as Tony. And this is the story that he's going to tell us that everybody's been waiting for.
He's good.
A crazy story.
Yeah, he's got a crazy life.
Yeah, you lived a crazy life. God bless you. How old are you, said?
81.
81 looks great.
He looks
better than me.
He looks better than you.
Yeah.
Fucking in jail 30 years. What'd you do, 30 years?
What's that?
How much time did you do total?
About a little over 30.
About 30?
A little over 30.
The last one was,
Right. So you're only
28, you know, so.
So you're only 51. You got to minus the 30.
You got a minus to 30 off your life.
So you're 51.
Yeah.
I'm 42.
So it says that everybody growing up called you Tony. That was the name that they gave you, I guess, when you were on their investigation. But walk us through where you're from.
I'm from Rhode Island.
Okay.
Right now I live in Bristol, Rhode Island. But
Okay.
I grew up in Providence, and then North Providence was where most of my life was, in North Providence. Besides being in the can most of the
Yeah,
life.
besides that address that you had.
But, you know, I started off at a young age. I was married at 18. You know, my wife had a baby. And I had a job working in this factory at Corn and Glass. I mean,
Okay.
I worked every day. I would never got involved in any crime, you know, or nothing. And I'm working in there, and I was getting $2 an hour, which was pretty good money because back then people were getting 50 cents an hour, 75 cents an hour.
What year was this, $2 an hour?
$2 an hour.
1960.
1960.
Yeah. So, before you were born.
Yeah, I was
Before
born in
now.
62. Yeah.
My son was.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm working in there, you know, and you take home, you make $80 a week, you take home 67, sometimes 70, you know, and just about getting by, I mean, you know. And they used to have, I worked in a department where they used to frost light bulbs, you know, like these light bulbs.
Okay.
And it was like silver. They mixed the silver with acid and everything, and it would come upstairs and it'd be on this conveyor, and it was like a big tray, and there'd be like 80 light bulbs on it, and then it would shoot up the acid and the silver, and it would drip down and go into the basement into this big tank.
Okay.
Real
So-
silver?
What's that?
Real silver, right?
Yeah. So they was silver, there was gold and everything. So I had this guy to be friendly with. He was from New York. He's a Jewish guy, and he used to buy precious metals. That's all he did. All the people who worked in jewelry stores in Rhode Island used to steal pieces of gold,
Right.
steal things. And back then, you couldn't own gold. And it was government control.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
it wasn't until 73 or 74 that you could actually own it. But before then, you couldn't
The
own
government even controlled the gold?
I never
That's
knew that.
insane. Yeah.
I know.
it. So,
Wait, you couldn't buy a gold chain back then?
I mean, like you couldn't buy like the bars. Like
Oh,
you
the
could
bar.
buy-
The bar,
Like the gold
oh, okay.
bars, yeah.
Right. So he used to come down my father's garage and everything, and he says to me, you know, you work in that factory. He says, you know, he said, I got a couple of guys that bring this sludge to me. He said, why don't you try to get some? I said, well, that's the department I'm in. And he didn't tell me who else would bring it,
Of
but
course.
anyway, he said, yeah, just bring some. And I said, so I went to work, and it was like a coffee can. So I go into work, I fill it up, you know, and I leave, I take it with me. So I go over his house, I give it to him. He said, when I go to New York tomorrow or the day after, he said, I'll get rid of it for you. So I says, all right. So now he's looking for me every day. I forgot about it and
Yeah.
everything. So he's looking for me every day down my father's garage. My father told me, he says, listen, you better go see him. Because he was a regular New Yorker. He'd be pulling into the garage, blowing the horn.
Yeah.
Like they do.
Yeah.
And my father used to go crazy. He just kept blowing the horn, looking for me. So I go over his house. So he says to me, get some more. He gives me an envelope.
This is Lil Snuff from the Skinny Joey Merlino podcast, and today I present you the official sponsor of our podcast, 4Q Coffee. You know Skinny Joey loves his coffee. You know Lil Snuff loves his coffee. If you want to head over there, use the promo code Skinny Joey. Save 10% off and also get free shipping. When you wake up in the morning and you're craving that cup of coffee, there's only one coffee you're going to go to. 4Q Coffee. Make sure you head on over there, add the promo code Skinny Joey, 10% off and free shipping.
Now I'm taking home $73, a week.
$73
So
a week.
I take it and I leave. So I'm driving in the car going home, and I said, let me see what he give me. So I opened up the envelope. There was like $300 in there, a little over $300.
Oh.
I said, wow. I said,
That's massive back then, right?
I mean, that's a whole month's pay.
Yeah, whole month.
So I go, now I'm doing it every day. I'm taking the can. And then, it's like everything else in life, you get greedy.
Of course.
That can is not good enough. So now I start with a 5-gallon bucket. So now I'm filling up
Now he
the
goes against the
5-gallon
bucket.
And when I'm working, I sneak and put it on the sidewalk. Then I run to the parking lot and I come and I get my car. I stick it in the trunk and then I leave.
Yeah.
So now I take it to him and he goes to New York. I meet him and then he gives me $6,000. Well, that's it.
Yeah.
That was the end of Rico
That was
after
the end
that.
of-
That's it.
That was the end of the light bulbs.
Yeah, no more light bulbs
Fucking
after
light
that.
bulbs were 400.
Yeah.
So I paid like $6,000 for that bucket, and
6,000 in 1970.
no, 60.
I mean, that's got to be. It's like
Oh, I
60,000.
I bought a new Buick Riviera.
I hear you.
I bought my wife a new GTO. I had a new house built, but back then the house was only $10,000.
Right.
But that's what they
Everybody
were.
selling light bulbs were probably looking around like, "How's this guy doing this?" Yeah.
And then I started that, and then they had platinum in there, and I started stealing pieces of. If you went underneath the tank, they used to heat the glass.
Okay.
And that would, they would make the cornware and everything, and it had to be something like I think 6,000 degrees. So the only thing that they could control this glass with, the heat, the melted glass, was platinum. So underneath they had all these little like heat testers, so to test the tank.
Okay.
So I went under there, and my friend I used to be friendly with in there, he used to be the one that used to be in charge of all that. He was some kind of electrician. So I used to call him. I go sit with him, we talk, and I'd ask him stupid questions about it. Oh, yeah. And he'd be in his office. It was not an office, but it was his workshop. And he'd have all little pieces on there. And I'd say, what is that? He'd say, oh, that's platinum. It come from a thing, which I already knew what it was.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I says, why is that so expensive? So he said that platinum's real expensive. So now I grab a couple of pieces. And then I go out of work at 3 o'clock. I go over to the guy's house and I give it to him. So I'll never forget, he said to me, I'll let you know if it's any good. So he had a gas stove. He lights his gas stove and he gets a pair of pliers and he's holding the platinum and he holds it over the gas until it turns red. He heated it up until it was completely red. Then he takes it away and then he lets it cool off. And once it cooled off, it turned right back to the same color.
So it was
he said,
real.
oh yeah, that's platinum.
That's the
so
real
he,
deal.
like I say, he bought gold every single day from everybody who worked in jewelry stores was stealing scrap. So he puts it on his scale, and they were 1 ounce each. So he said, he paid me. He said, here, I'm going to give you $1,000.
Are you a Master Edge member yet? If not, you missed another big week. Now ahead 60 units for the Major League Baseball season. Skeptical? Then join me each weekday, 11 a.m. Eastern. I go live on Instagram. See what my followers have to say about me. If you're watching this before tonight's Game 5 between the Mavericks and Timberwolves, I want you to bet the Dallas Mavs +5 and sprinkle some money line. Kyrie and Luka had their worst shooting game in Game 4, while Cat and Edwards had their best game. Mavs best road record against the spread this year. I got the Mavs +5. Let's make some money.
an ounce.
Jesus.
So now he gives me 2,000 for that. And now, you know, here goes them buckets. And,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, now you want the platinum. But you couldn't get the platinum every day. The buckets I could get every week. So I'm working, and a friend of mine, he says to me, Tony, he says, you think I can borrow $1 off you? I want to get a coffee at break. I mean, you know, they just about survived. He had 5 kids. So I said, yeah. So I give him $20. Oh, no, he says, I can't pay that back, he says, out of my pay. I said, just keep it. Don't worry about
That's
it. I had to roll like
That's
that.
like 2,000 today.
Yeah, $20 back then, right?
So I'm thinking about it, you know, and he got hurt where we worked. One of the barrels blew up, the acid barrels.
Okay.
And it covered him like from his face down right to
Jesus.
his feet. He was all scarred up and everything. So I'm thinking Christmas is coming. So I said to Morris, listen, I said, I'm going to let you make some money. He said, what do you mean? I said, I'm going to bring my car out around the side, just pass this bucket out that had all the sludge in it. What are we going to do? I said, just pass it out. So he passed it out, I take it. I said, I'll see you in a couple of days. I'll give you some money. All right. So now the guy pays me. So I come in, and I figured Christmas is coming. He got 5 kids. So I was legit with him. So I give him 3,000. So when I give it to him, he panicked. Oh, what am I going to do with that? I can't have that much money. My wife, and she'll want to know where it's from.
Scared
I
to
said,
death.
well, don't tell your wife.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put it under the mattress.
Yeah, why would you tell your wife? So he didn't want it. I said, take it, you know. So he goes and buys a television. He takes the back off and puts his money
In the back of the
in the television.
Yeah.
So I guess Christmas was coming. He digs the money out, and he's giving his wife money. And she said to him, you know, where did you get all that money? And he told her that I gave it to him, that he carried a bucket out for me. And, you know, she goes to the feds. So I'm coming
She
into
goes to the
work.
cops
Fucking wife.
immediately.
Yeah. So I'm
The
wife?
best Christmas they ever had went right to the
Motherfucker.
feds.
So I'm
Unbelievable.
coming into work. I pull up in front of the factory, and I look. Back then they had them Plymouth, the little K cars.
Yeah.
I see 3 of them out front of the factory. I said, this don't look good. I recognized the cards right away. I said, no, there's something wrong here. So I walk in, and they're standing by the time rack, the time cards. So I walk in, the guy says to me, Fiore? I said, yeah. He said, don't punch in. You come with us. I said, I can't. I said, I got to relieve the guy at 3 o'clock. He said, don't worry about relieving him. You're coming with us. So they take me, you know, down to the federal. Now they're going through me. They're going everything. But I didn't pay attention to him. I mean, back then, you know, I grew up with Raymond Jr. We lived right up the street. I was friends with him. And I'll never forget, like, when Raymond come down to take over, you know, I was with Junior in school. So we'd come out of school, and there'd be 2 detectives there, which I was 12 years old.
You were a
I
kid.
had no idea what they were doing. So they would pick us up, and they would take us home. So, but then they would take us up Federal Hill.
This is Little Snuff from the Skinny Joey Merlino podcast, and we would like to thank you for watching. This episode is brought to you by our official sports book of the Skinny podcast, infinitybet.ag. Use the promo code SNUFF50 for a deposit match up to $50. Use the promo code SNUFF50 for a deposit match up to $50. And always gamble responsibly.
Around 4th of July, they go to all the clubs. They come out with bags of fireworks
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah, the
And
fireworks.
they give us everything.
Yeah.
And I had no idea why they were picking us up, because he just come down to take over and everything. So, you know, he wanted to make sure his son was all right.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were friends for years and everything. So I always knew as I started getting older, you know, what it was all about, you know. So when they would question me, nothing.
No, yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you know, I said, I don't care what you say. I said, he's lying. I says, he didn't know who to blame, whatever he stole. He's blaming it on me. I says, and they, you know, they fired me. The company
So
fired
the
me.
wife went bad on him, and then he went bad.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
He was the most money he ever had. He just went bad.
Even in his 60s.
Yeah. So that was, you know, the end of that. I got, you know, fired and everything. So now I says, you know, what am I going to do now? Anyway, I don't want to go work at these factories now for $1.50, $1.25.
When you're used to
an hour.
making that kind of money.
So then I said, well, you know, I started robbing trucks. I was hijacking them. I was all cigarette trucks and all that. They would come up from like Carolina or Virginia, and I'd go to the terminal. Either that or I had a guy who used to tell me when the truck was coming and the number of the truck. So I'd be waiting for it. Sometimes I have to wait right on the turnpike, the Jersey Turnpike, and follow it all the way in. And then I would stop right in front of the truck on the highway. I have a van and the other guy with me. So I'd stop the truck and he'd have to stop, like he didn't know if I broke down or not. And I'd get out of the truck, the van I was in, and I'd walk up to him. I get on the running board and I put the gun to him. I tell him, get out of the truck. Then my friend would take him in the van and I would take the truck because I could drive it, everything. So we were doing that. Then I was doing warehouses and everything. Then it started bypassing alarms. But back then, they were like 6-volt, 12-volt alarm.
Okay.
So all you had to do was get like a 6-volt battery, you hook it up to the telephone lines, then cut it. But you had to cut it, not you cut it before. You had to make sure that the voltage was going to the telephone pole. Because a couple of times, you know, I cut it before.
You got
and Then I
electrocuted?
cut it, the alarm went off,
alarm.
you know.
What made you start doing that, though? We would like to thank you for watching. Head on over to Patreon for the full episode.